What I've got for you today is a very high-level match of StarCraft 2. It's time for a Zerg versus Zerg, a best-of-3 series where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Data C. Spawning right here in the top right-hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg drones, we have the rank 1 Zerg from South Korea, and his name is Dark. He's got his own face spinning around on the main hatchery. That's one killer portrait, not gonna lie. His opponent in the opposite corner, likewise also from Korea, a man who... it's kind of different, actually, than Dark. So I always feel like Dark is one of those guys who is ridiculously good at controlling those late-game spellcasters. He doesn't really have a particular weakness, but we can talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. Anyway, this man right over here with the red Zerg drones, he pretty much refuses to make any kind of Zerg spellcaster other than, I guess, the Queen. But we're looking at soO's main hatchery. That was a very long introduction for a Zerg versus Zerg. Lucky for us, no spawning pools were already planted down. Obviously, that's always a thing that can end up happening. Anyways, Dark, not really someone who has any particular weakness, right? Like, I'm trying to think of some. Obviously, he likes to play pretty crazy build orders, as in, like, he just kind of wings it most of the time. So he definitely knows the rules, and so do I. But he, generally speaking, he does definitely just throw down a Roach Warren or go for a Baneling Nest or think, you know what? Right now is the time for a Spire. He doesn't really play very rigidly, and while I'm sure he is well aware of the quote-unquote conventional timings, he always plays very feeling-based, and I do think that's probably something that you can abuse, but, you know, he's been very, very successful over the course of the last decade, so I wouldn't be surprised if, yeah, even though he may be a little bit free-flowing in his approach, that he will still be close to optimal most of the time. soO is very much so someone who likes to play a very swarmy style of Zerg. So he doesn't really play Infestors, he doesn't really play Vipers very frequently either. But what generally happens though is that he likes to send in wave after wave after wave of Zergling, Baneling, Hydra, right? That's what he likes to do in most of the other matchups. In Zerg versus Zerg, that isn't as much of an option past the early game, but you can definitely... I think probably, I don't know, but I feel like soO is probably someone who will favor playing Mutalisks over Roaches in this particular matchup. Just because the Mutaling Bane style is very aggressive, it's very much so in the opponent's face, and yeah, if I were to make a prediction for this particular series, that would be it. Dark probably playing the more conventional Roach Ravager style, and soO probably gonna go for a Mutaling Bane based approach instead. Anyhow, what do we have? Well, we've got Dark hiding a bunch of Zerglings. He pulled all the drones out of gas, so there's no Baneling Nest or anything along those lines. He did plant down the third hatchery. There are 2 Overlords on the other side of the map, but I do believe, yeah, that Dark right now is just planning on doing a good old Link Flood. This is the oldest Zerg trick in the book. Make a bunch of hatcheries. Don't actually produce a lot of drones, just use them for larva generation instead, and then just make as many links as possible. Baneling Nest is not quite done yet on the other side of the map, so soO is going to be in a little bit of trouble. At the very least, this third hatchery is going to go down, I believe, but we'll see if Dark even wants to aim for that one. No, he's just going to go straight for the natural here instead. Makes a lot of sense, because at this point, we're talking 30 drones for soO versus only 19 here for Dark. So beautiful block right there. Brenda and Karen standing side by side. Karen shoveling to the back to try and, well, save some of her own HP. Get the Zerglings in the front of the battle as well. Fantastic control. Margaret just popped out of the hatchery. She's not so lucky. I don't actually think that these 2 queens are going to live to tell this tale either, but they have bought a lot of time. And now the Baneling's Nest is done. So at the very least, soO can transition towards, yeah, a couple of Banelings if he has the time to morph them in. He needs to continue mining as well, actually. It's really critical that you don't pull your drones for the combat all of the time, or at the very least not all of the workers, because at that point you'll just be running out of steam. In the meantime, by the way, Dark has just continued making Zerglings, so there's not a whole lot else. He hasn't really followed up with any workers. He is just looking to win this game right here, right now. Third hatchery now at this point in a lot of trouble too. I don't think soO really cares about it all too much. Okay. So dangerous. Nice little bit of splitting off right there by Dark. Snipes that one Baneling, but there's a couple more on the production tab. This third hatchery is certainly toast. I don't think it really matters at this point much either. I mean, it matters for Dark that it doesn't stay alive, but I don't think that soO has to get super carried away and trying to keep it alive. Once again, good control right there by the blue Zerg. But this is certainly losing steam right now. Yeah, and all things considered, this is actually really good for soO. In the game of drones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. And at this point, that's Cersei Lannister, by the way, who said that. At this point, Dark is at 19 workers and soO is at 30. So for every minute that goes by right now, yeah, this is when that drone pool happened in the main base, but for every minute that goes by right now, soO is apparently roughly mining 600 more resources. That's a lot. That adds up very quickly. That is 4 queens worth of resources that soO is getting every minute. So that's a lot, and he's using it right now to go into a lair. So he's already thinking about the next step in this plan. One thing that Dark does have going for him here is the 3rd hatchery, so that's quite nice. If he wants to play macro, he can obviously use that to his advantage. He's a little bit concerned about a counter-link flood at this point, so upon putting the drones back into the gas geyser, he did decide to go for a baling nest of his own. So I actually like this position here for soO quite a bit. Yeah. I mean, at this point, he maybe is playing a little bit too cautiously, because Dark has caught up in the work account quite nicely. But there's that Spire, so this is what soO is now investing all of his money into. He just wants to grab a couple of those mutas and then hopefully force all of those units in blue to stay back for the foreseeable future. Dark is not even remotely close to muta tech. As a matter of fact, he's still at hatchery. So he's not going to be able to, go into Hydras. Really, his only anti-air option at this point are going to be Queens and Spore Crawlers. And, well, both of those things have one thing in common, and that's the fact that they're not very good offensively. If you can get the Queens across, if you can get the Spore Crawlers across, it's certainly an option, but usually it's quite difficult to pull off. Okay, one Zorkling. He's trying to scout, right? Okay, good control here by Mr. soO. Just trying to keep as many of these units alive. Kill, actually, on that 3rd base. So that is 300 minerals plus the cost of the drone down the drain. Plus 1 melee coming up too. Dark is mostly just faking it, by the way. He's just using those units that he made earlier to, like, he still added on a couple, but it's mostly just using the units from earlier to now continuously harass here. Okay, 2 drones, but that is not really worth it. Here's the Spire, though. It's done. It's fully no, look. But it is, though. It is fully built to the peak of its Spire. Let's leave it at that. My family-friendly show almost ruined. Dark is doing an excellent job here, actually. I'm really impressed with how much time he's been buying here for his 3rd hatchery to now kick in. Look at this. So he's finally going for a lair. He's finally going for a roach warren. So he's now finally making that transition. After falling behind economically, after his early game Zergling flood, he's finally now, caught well up in that department. But does he have enough to actually defend against the mutas? I think he does. I think he's probably fine. So this is going to be the last of this aggression for a while. Okay, nice little bit of sniping. At this point, though, soO is mostly settling for just grabbing map control. So rather than diving into his opponent's mineral line, he is the guy who's now just sniping a bunch of those overlords. Okay, so this is going to make the vision of Dark, very pushed back, right? So really pulled back right now. If you look at the minimap, that's the announcer that Dark is using. But if you look at the minimap right now, I guess he's still getting some vision from those Zerglings that he's running around. But for the most part, the man is blind. So he doesn't really know exactly if soO is going to double down on those mutas. I guess one thing he just scouted, though, is the timing of the gas is at the 3rd, and that is huge. Actually massive. The fact that he just scouted that, I mean, it could be fake. That would actually be a 300 IQ play from soO. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all, but the only reason why gases are coming up this quickly is if you want to double down on Mutalisks. 4th hatchery also coming up. soO really needs to hold down the drone button. That's basically what he's doing here. But these mutas have not really been worthwhile yet. I mean, they've taken map control. They've pushed back all of those Zerglings, and I guess they've stabilized the game for soO, but it's not like he's finding himself at a significant advantage right now. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, Dark has decided to go for an infestation pit, I believe, yes. So he might use that for infestors, he might use that for a hive. All of those things are very helpful. Yeah, he's gonna go into a hive. Couple infestors, he does both. That's the unit that Mr. soO only makes when it's getting incredibly desperate. Obviously, infestors have a skill called Fungal Growth that temporarily would slow down units affected by it, and it can be cast at range. So that is very nice. Especially because it allows you to get those Spore Crawler hits in a little bit more frequently, and the Queens can maybe snipe a Mutalisk or two. But mostly what it does is it buys a lot of time for you to get your ultimate units going. So he's going into the Hive right now. Vipers have a skill called Parasitic Bomb that deals 120 damage to an area of effect. And Mutas have 120 life when they're at full health. So certainly not a bad option. And honestly, I like this situation right now for Dark a lot. One problem you run into when you're playing Zerg versus Zerg, and you're the guy playing the ground army, and the opponent is going for the flyers. One problem you run into frequently is the fact that you can't really secure a 4th base very easily. And Dark is already there. As a matter of fact, he's got the 4th base fully set. Well, not fully saturated. He's fully saturated. Yeah, it's a little bit awkward. That would have been better if he didn't have the anyways. He's got the gases mining. The gas is what you're mostly lacking. So ideally, you want to go Vipers, you want to go Infestors, you're gonna want to go Hydras, Lurkers, you want to get late game upgrades, you want to get all of that, but it requires a ridiculous amount of gas. It's actually quite a significant error. Anyways, the fact that he's got that base up and running is great. soO at this point, though. Okay, he is not looking to tech up. I actually thought he was not going to double down on this because it's incredibly dangerous. One Fungal Growth followed up by a Parasitic Bomb is GG for these Mutas. But apparently, no, we're just going to roll the Banes. Roll, roll, roll the Banes gently down their base. There's a couple of Banes as well on the right side. These over here mostly just connecting with Roaches. Okay, a couple of drones ended up going down here. But honestly, that was not worthwhile. Take that, Evo Chamber. Not exactly sure why Dark decided to finish that one off. Maybe it was just to inspire confidence in his units and to just show off to soO that he is not afraid, because those Mutas definitely saw it. But yeah, that did not quite work out. So this is apparently the tech explosion right now from our player in red. Lurker Den, Roach Warren, Infestation Pit. He is planning to go into, yeah, his own ultimate force as well. There's a Parasitic Bomb. How good are the splits? Pretty good. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. At least, you know, he kept the majority of them alive. And you know what? Mutas actually regenerate life even while they are affected by it. So this bad boy, yeah, managed to stay alive with just a couple health intact. So they actually heal while the Parasitic Bomb is on them. So Parasitic Bomb deals exactly 120 damage, and the Mutas have exactly 120 life. But if you cast it on a full HP Muta, they will regenerate 1 or 2 life while the spell is active. Anyways, here we go. Lurkers on the ground! My god, okay. That was very dangerous. But somehow that actually kind of worked for soO. I believe that's the end of the Baneling era, though, because Lurkers are absolutely fantastic. Lurkers are very good when it comes to cleaning up those ground units. A lot of Roaches still, yeah, relatively low in HP. A couple of Queens have noticed the same thing. Transfusing it back up to full, but Dark, I believe, is well protected right now, right? Anyways, we haven't looked at the economy of soO for a while, and soO has taken a 5th hatchery. Obviously, he's not really up with his back against the wall. And honestly, I don't think Dark is either anymore. If he pushes a little bit more creep in that direction. A couple Lurkers there, yeah, he should be able to start mining that pretty easily. Okay. So for Zerg versus Zerg, the ultimate unit composition that counters literally everything, from Ultras to Brute Lords and everything in between, is Hydra Lurker Viper. Hydra Lurker Viper is amazingly strong. It counters, yeah, all of the other units. Problem is, when you're both playing Hydra Lurker Viper, those units are very good against one another too, right? So it gets very aggressive. Spore Crawlers are usually used to keep those Vipers in the back. So Vipers, obviously, besides the Parasitic Bomb that we already discussed, that's really good against Mutas, they also have a skill called Abduction, and that allows you to pull burrowed units out of the ground as well. So yeah, if you can obviously abduct your opponent's Lurkers, that is pretty good. Anyhow, I don't think that Dark really wants to attack here anytime soon. I mean, he could if he really wanted to. He's got a nice supply lead. But he is mostly just playing tower defense right now. Every once in a while, there's a wave of Zerg units that get to his side of the map, but he's mostly just chilling behind the wall. Just trying to make his opponent pay for it. Splitting up these units to the best of his abilities too. Putting Spore Crawlers everywhere and just trying to increase his power in this game. So, yeah, we oftentimes see this upgrade a little bit sooner, the Tunneling Claws, to still be able to put on some pressure, but none of that has really happened in this game. Dark maybe wants to go to the other side of the map in a couple minutes, but for now he seems content, just sort of sitting here on his side of the map, just getting all of his things, right? Whatever he needs. Look, there's even a Nidus worm coming up. All right. Nidus network, always nice to have. Okay, so after the crazy early game, the game is actually, yeah, stabilized quite nicely. Well, in the end, though, we do have a nice upgrade lead right here for Dark, right? So Dark is going already into +3, whereas Mr. soO is still sitting at his +2. So all of this is a little bit slower. He's already got a lot of static defense, and actually, he's getting a ton of spine crawlers too, which is kind of interesting. I guess this is just anti-Nidus Worm of the opponent. I haven't really seen it like this before. We see Terran players oftentimes making like rings of missile turrets, but this is a ring of crawlers, I guess? Is that what we could call it? I'm not exactly sure. Anyhow, Adrenal Glands still prioritized here by soO, so that's the Zergling attack speed improvement. Free kill. Not bad. But yeah, soO has been having full map control here for a while. This is finally when Dark once again sees the opponent. And the first time he does, the welcoming committee right there of soO made very short work of it. Nidus Worm. Corner of the main base. Not gonna happen. Nice attempt here by Dark. So lurkers obviously are really good when you can get them into key positions. Your opponent's ramp is one of those key positions, right? Your opponent's intersections, right over here, for example, are also really good. If you can get lurkers in the right place at the right time, it can be very difficult to break, especially if you don't have Vipers. So we're currently at 5 Vipers right here on the side of Dark versus 3 on the side of soO. He doesn't really like playing the spellcasters, but I don't see how he's going to be able to get around it. So I think that Dark probably had a similar assessment as I did at the beginning of this cast. I do think that Dark is likely favored in the long run. So if this game goes the distance, which it's going, I think, because there's really no way it isn't at this point. There's really no way that Dark isn't going to be the one who's likely going to feel more comfortable. Just because Dark... He's got 4 hands, right? Like, he's got, like, a secondary keyboard probably hidden under the desk on his lap or something, and it just, you know, somehow, some way, he manages to get a lot of input in his keyboards like that, and because of that, he is able to control, oh, God, all of those units really nicely. Where's the parasitic bomb? No follow-up, so those mutas are going to be able to escape. Anyways, he's very, very good at that late-game control, and I think he's actually at the same level as someone like soO. I mean, we don't see soO playing as much late-game lately, although... I know he's played a bunch of matches that I haven't seen yet on purpose because of the fact that I might want to cast some of those games as soon as those replay packs release. So maybe he has been playing some of them recently, but I have definitely seen Dark play a lot more late game over the last couple months than I've seen soO play late game. And Dark is looking solid in that department. Yeah. Alright. Maybe this cheeky little overlord can finally get that... that Zerg army in blue out onto the map again. There's nothing in the Nidus Worm, but... Well, even Dark expected it to not go up. One thing I don't really like here for Dark is that he's still got... you know what? It's actually not too bad. It's only 10 roaches. I thought he had more supply caught up in roaches than that. It's not as big of a deal. Alright. Yeah, so I know some people are wondering, like, what about Ultralisks? What about Brute Lords? So the problem with Brute Lords is that in Zerg vs. Zerg, they very much so go on a one-way trip. If you decide to send out the Brute Lords from right here towards the other side, it's gonna be a one-way trip. They're never gonna go back home if your opponent already has Vipers out. And since Vipers come out tech-wise before... Okay. Are we just gonna ignore it? Yeah? Are we confident that that one spine crawler is gonna be able to clear the job? Alright. Anyways, tech-wise, the Viper comes sooner than the Brute Lord, and because of that, yeah, they will just get abducted. They will get abducted into the Hydras, they will get abducted into the Spore Crawlers. It's really difficult to make them work. Ultras also definitely have a place. So I casted some games featuring late-game Ultra Wars not too long ago. I'll go ahead and post a link to that one down below in the description of this video. Very fun series, very crazy series, actually. Yeah, it's possible, but only after playing Lurker Chicken for about 20 minutes. It's not commonly done. So, yeah, if your opponent has Lurkers out, Ultras just get destroyed. Alright, so I think that these units right here in red are going on their final trip. You know what? Their final trip's getting quite a bit of work in. You don't really want to have a lot of supply caught up in this. Nidus Worm available as well for soO. So he's going to start sending some of those units towards the other side of the map. Actually, you know what? These units are still getting in a lot of value. Yeah, sniping a bunch of important tech structures. Queens are going to rapid fire transfuse it back up to full, but just getting some damage in here and there. Attempted push as well by those roaches. Yeah, it's a funny situation right now where initially they're rushing up to mute us, they're trying to stay alive using those roaches, and then later on into the game, they are just there to get traded out for better units. It's a little sad, but it is what it is. Okay. So, a complete split map scenario in Zerg versus Zerg. Not something that happens all too often in the most cheesy matchup of the game, but yeah, we're there. Looking good. So, the entire bottom section of the map is taken here by our Zerg player in red. He's mining everything. At the same time, our player in blue has taken the entire northern section. You'll love to see it. A lot of static defense in this game actually so far as well. 40 Spore Crawlers on the side of Dark. 23 on the side of soO. A lot of Spine Crawlers as well in favor here of the player in blue, so not bad. But soO has a lot of money. So soO has used those mutas to expend very aggressively. And if we look right now at the banks, soO is approaching 20,000 resources in the bank. But Dark is not too far behind either. I mean, since they're both maxed out right now, they're gonna be able to get there eventually. And I think that we are gonna get to a point where those mutas have to be traded out. There's a Great Aspire, by the way, mostly just for good measure. Obviously, you can still pull it off, maybe. Like, if you're a very wealthy guy, right? Say you have $3 billion, somehow, some way. You don't really need a yacht, but you'll probably get it. Just because. And that's basically what that Great Aspire is doing right now for soO. You might even go for an Ultralisk Cavern, because he's got a little bit of everything. Does he already have one? Not that I can tell. They can still be useful, but only, yeah, a crazy day. He already had the Spire. He's obviously already been upgrading those flyers as well, so yeah, it does make a little bit of sense. He's got to impress his friends somehow, right? Is that the point of a yacht? I'm pretty sure. Never quite understood the appeal of a yacht, but then again, I've never been on a boat bigger than, I don't know, a ferry or something. It's basically a yacht, but it's just a passenger, okay? To get the car across the water. Anyway. Yeah, we're getting to the point as well where I think drones are probably going to be traded out. They'll probably turn into static defense instead. So one thing to note, by the way, about the Overseers is that... Okay. Sorry about that, Caster Park. If you siege up an Overseer, like this guy right over here, it gets about 10% more vision. So that's why you will see these guys leapfrogging Overseers, which is a funny concept. Nidus Worm over here getting some work in, actually. Hey, you know what? Those mutas still providing vision and value. Vision and value. Sound like a marketing... anyways, let's see. Okay, a couple nice abductions. Spine Crawlers from the low ground. Whee! One of them ended up going to the surface of Data Sea like a fidget spinner. Love to see it. This is also quite annoying, actually. So if you keep the Infestor... Or sorry, if you keep the Overseers and the Vipers on one control group, it can actually be quite difficult for the opponent to target down the correct units, right? Because ideally you do want to abduct your opponent's Vipers too. But obviously if there's a lot of Overseers nearby, you might accidentally target those instead, and it's not really worth the energy. You know what? Might not be a terrible idea to every once in a while give your opponent just a little slap. Just, you know, just a tiny little, just abduct a couple overseers. All right, that's the real deal, though. That's why you're here. Yep. Okay. When two Vipers abduct one another, somehow they don't meet in the center. It's one of the things that science just cannot explain. But, yeah, they changed position instead. Underwater physics. They're truly beautiful. Okay. This is, though, the moment where Dark is starting to advance. This game is gonna go on for a really long time. Because they both have so much money. If you look right now at their army values, you can see how many times they can actually remax based on the bank that they've got right now. And it will be unlikely that we see everything getting traded out as well. So these guys can rebuild their armies left, right, and center for the foreseeable future. This is, though, the point where after 25 minutes... Well, maybe not entirely true, because in the first half of this game... Well, not the first half. The first couple minutes of the game, Mr. Dark actually was very active with his army. He's now finally moving again. You know what, Mutas? I have called you guys... No. Okay, I've called you guys pointless too many times. You're still getting in way too much value. Well, I've not called you pointless. I was just insinuating it, I suppose. Anyhow... soO getting the worms across, trying to just backstab his opponent right now, but... yeah. Okay, we're gonna need a little bit more, and more is arriving. These are nice little trades right here for soO. Very resource-efficient trades. Which, assuming the entire map mines out, is definitely gonna be relevant. Ooh, beautiful Blinding Cloud. One Blinding Cloud, oh my god, to cover them all. Yep, you did it again. Fungal growths as well, sure. We needed some detection, so the Spine Crawler and whatnot could finish the job. Okay, so you can spend your money, my man. You always make me a bit anxious when the pro gamers sit at, like, a lower amount of supply than they could ultimately have. And Dark right now is thinking the same thing, too. He's actually making a move forward. Very aggressive move here. Blinding Clouds are covering everything. But Dark won't budge for now. Yeah, just unburrows once again and is moving them forward. This is an excellent engagement right here for Dark. Pushing back the infrastructure very quickly. And honestly, yeah, he's just gonna keep going. I was just talking about this intersection right over here. I didn't expect him to be able to get there because Mr. soO still had the ultimate army, but he's actually now in a very dicey spot. All of his tech could actually be in some trouble here. All of the important tech structures for soO are inside of the natural and the main base. And those units are gonna have a very hard time getting over there. Reinforcing Hydras desperately wander down the ramp and in this direction. But is there enough right now for soO to even properly break through all of this? Even the Spore Crawlers right now are burrowing on the creep that was previously soO's, and it's very difficult to get into the right place at the right time. Oh my god, no way! I think this is the very first time I've seen someone leave a game, at the very least a game of this caliber, with literally 25,000 resources in the bank. Whew. Dark's late game is just ridiculous. Like, it's not even just the unit control, which for obvious reasons is incredibly good, but it's also just looking at those fights, interpreting the information, and then making the right technical decisions on top of that. Right, like he doesn't have a lot of time to think about it, but he's just jumped on the opportunity, and I see him do that time and time again, and for some reason it never really seems to go wrong. But if you've ever played a game of Zerg versus Zerg, or if you've ever played against lurkers at all, you've probably accidentally walked your army into lurkers. You didn't look right for like 2 seconds, or you thought you made the right call, and everything explodes. Somehow Dark seems to consistently make those outrageous decisions, and yeah, they pretty much always go in his favor, which is kind of wild. Anyhow, game number 2 in this best of 3 series. I thought we were going to be in game number 1 for at least another 20 minutes, but anyways, game number 2, we find ourselves on the map Moondance, and soO has decided to go for a pretty quick spawning pool. As a matter of fact, this is the fastest possible spawning pool, if I'm not mistaken. Spawning pool at 12 supply, followed up by, I believe, a 17 hatchery. This is one of those builds that's really quite good against a hatchery first, and that's exactly what Mr. Dark has done here. So soO's going to be able to get units across the map, but still have a decent economy on the back of it too. How many links is he going to produce? Okay, goes for an Overlord at 21. Is it just going to be six Zerglings right here? Yeah, it's just going to be 6 links. Okay. Fair enough. So if you commit a little bit heavier, obviously you can... My god, did he just go hatchery into hatchery? Sure he did. Yeah, if you commit a little bit heavier into Zerglings, you can actually oftentimes force the cancel when your opponent goes for a hatchery first. But obviously you don't know if your opponent goes for a hatch first, and this is very much so also a anti-cheese build, because, well, he blindly made 6 Zerglings, so if there was aggression coming up, he should be okay. At this point, though, I think that Dark is going to be alright as soon as his defensive links pop. 1 drone ended up going down here. A little bit of lost mining time as well. Zergling number 5 and 6 are just about to come out of their cocoons. There they are. 7 and 8 are already available too, and Stellar Hold right there for Dark, who indeed does have a very, very fast third hatchery, and this does get scouted by soO as well. Okay. soO, in the meantime, grab the base in the bottom right. Now he's going to get himself more queens going, so 3 queens here already for soO. That should be pretty good against the Zergling counterattack that he is going to have to deal with here in just a moment, as, well, Dark is just chasing around his opponent's Zerglings here for the time being. Careful, Brenda. Karen's here, don't worry. Well, you know what? Yeah. That's a very bloody way to die. Okay. soO may be a little bit out of it after that previous game, huh? That was not the smartest decision. I'm not exactly sure why he decided to push that queen off creep, but I didn't really question it because these guys are very good at the game. And generally speaking, whenever I question pro gamer decision making, yeah, it's the wrong thing to do while you're casting games. It's like, no, Lowko, just go with whatever they're doing. It's definitely correct most of the time, but my gut instinct told me that Brenda was stepping a little too far, and that turned out to be the case. Double gas here, finally for soO. So soO has been gasless up to this point. Dark is mining gas off of 2 Evo chambers, off of 2 extractors a little bit quicker. There's the metabolic boost. Very nice. 3rd gas already coming up as well. Okay. Really? Are we gonna do it again? I think that Dark is looking to do the same thing that he did in game number 1, but then even more aggressively. Because the only reason why he would make a 3rd gas right now, yeah, he's just gonna go and make more links, is if you wanted to make a ton of banelings. So he is basically making mass Zergling until metabolic boost completes. So he got to the other side of the map. I don't know if he saw any of the gas timings of the opponent. He did not, so he doesn't really know exactly what he's going up against. But it seems to me that if soO thinks he's safe behind a wall, he's gonna be, yeah, he's not gonna be too happy about it. A couple of Zerglings on the right side. I love this. These Zerglings are scouting for overlords. So they're trying to see where the opponent's overlords are located, and that's exactly the path that those other Zerglings are now following. They should not show themselves. Yeah, they should not show themselves until the overlords get a little bit closer, and this could actually be a very harsh awakening right now for soO, because he is going up against a mass link flood. Now he finally catches a couple of them, but this might be the Zerglings that he already saw earlier, right? Oh my god. Oh, this is so unlucky. There's a massive amount of links right now at the front, and soO only just now sees it. Well done. Is there enough? That's the question. That's always the question. Dark has obviously invested a lot into this, right? So his economy is kind of terrible. At least compared to soO's, but if you can just destroy all of your opponent's economy, that certainly makes things a little bit better. And in the meantime, right over here on the low ground, the links have no more contest. Okay, eventually a couple roaches did pop out of their cocoons as well, and that's nice. Good micro there by soO, morphing into weakened units, but now he's mostly out of gas. Not really a chance to do more of that cheeky little bit of microing, and 31 drones have already fallen. There's more and more links coming across the map. That Evo chamber even in a little bit of trouble as well, and that's the only one that is researching anything. I think that this is going from bad to worse. Yeah. Dark is a very dangerous player. While he does have maybe best late game control in the world, at the very least, you know, he's very close to, for example, guys like Sero and Maru and all that, right? He is still not afraid to just hold down the Zergling button and go for an all-out cheese. He did it in the previous game, too. Obviously, that game forced him to play the long run, but... beautiful. Incredibly impressive play right here from Dark. Hey, if you made it until the end of this video, please take the 1 second that it takes to hit the like button down below. It really does help. For now, though, thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.